we're inside the bivvy here, and you can see that when you have this mesh open here, and there's a good 6 inches, let's have a good 6 inches, isn't it? That's a good 6 inches of mesh up there, which gives, you know, a good deal of ventilation and breathability, and it is very welcome, very nice. And I've used this on the 3 nights that I've been camping here, so I've had 3 nights in this bivvy. Make sure you subscribe and then you'll see me using this for 3 nights. And if you don't like my waffle, then maybe don't subscribe. But what I found last night, or the night before, is I got a little bit cool, because obviously there was some breeze was coming in over my head here. Now what I did last night, I did 2 things to help sort that one out, because the first night I just had my quilt which kind of pulled over my shoulders, but of course I was finding that cool air, even though I had a hat on, cool air was getting into the top part of the quilt because it was just pulled over me. And I couldn't really kind of like, for whatever reason, I couldn't really snug it around myself. I think I was just too tired and I couldn't figure it out. Anyway, what I did last night, and it helped a lot, is that I do have, and I always bring, because it is so light, a sleeping bag or quilt liner. And with the liner, it's getting a bit warm in here now. And with the liner, I went into that first. Now that, because it's so light, is super easy to pull around me. Now don't get me wrong, I wasn't too worried about not pulling the quilt around me, because it was just generally quite warm. The rest of my body was very, very warm. So if I'd have been really, 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 really wanted to, then I could easily have pulled the quilt around me. Two ways. It has snap closures on both edges, so you can quite literally snap it closed with these snappy things here. Or I have this bungee cord. Now the bungee cord that I'm using, I put the bungee cord under the mat and around. So of course that then means that the quilt is pulled down against the quilt, but not necessarily around me, and that's why I couldn't get it snug into me. So all I need to do was undo the bungee cord and pull it tight around me. That probably would have been enough, but it might have been a bit too warm doing it like that. So what I did last night, I put a sleeping bag liner inside, slept inside that, pulled the sleeping bag liner around my neck, and that's very, very lightweight, but not too warm, but it just gives a tiny bit of warmth. Kept the duvet as it was exactly, and that helped a lot falling asleep. When I woke up, I was still a little bit cool when I woke up. So again, rather than pulling the sleeping bag tight around me or the quilt tight around me, I got a wind shirt. And a wind shirt, I do have an insulated jacket, but I knew if I put the insulated jacket on, that would be far too warm, because then I'd have the warmth of the duvet as well. So what I did in the end was put this wind shirt, which is also very, very light, on. I put that on. I already had a very small beanie hat on, and with the insulated jacket plus the beanie hat, put the insulated jacket hood up, and because they're all very, very thin, light items all together, you know, one warm duvet, but then very light items, you know, in addition to that, was enough to keep me, you know, very, very cozy into the morning. So, you know, there's a few hints and tips and things like that, you know, might be useful for you if you're doing that. And it was mainly because I had the mesh thing open, and of course the breeze was coming straight through because I haven't got a cover over. I could have of course closed the bivvy completely, which would have cut all wind out, and in fact I did do that 2 nights ago for a half an hour or something like that, because I hadn't really thought about properly doing all these other things. And so for about half an hour I did the other night. But unless it's raining, you really don't want to be that cocooned inside here if you can at all avoid it. But as you can see with the mesh there is plenty of room. Now, we do obviously always worry about condensation, and as you can see, there isn't any. Now, I will say, and I'm going to say straight away, there isn't any now because clearly it's had the sun on it. It's 11:30, although I haven't actually left it yet. But at 6 or 7 o'clock this morning, there was quite a bit of condensation inside on the surface of this. There was quite a bit. I'd say like it was like a coating of about maybe 50%, something like that. But it wasn't excessive. The outside was soaked in dew. There was no rain last night. The outside was covered in dew, and obviously the inside was trying to breathe to get out, and then had to bypass the dew and wetness, and atmospheric conditions and all that type of thing. So there was condensation inside last night, but it wasn't too much. It was certainly manageable, and it was fine, because basically you're inside your duvet, you're inside the duvet, so of course the bit where you are is fine. It would only be a real problem, I think, as if you were having to get up first thing in the morning and pack everything away, and then things might be just a little bit damp when you pack things away, and when you unpack things there might still be a little bit damp. So in that instance, I think you'd need to be prepared that when you unpack, yes, things might have a damp feel to it, but they're not going to be wet. It might feel wet, but it's going to be so little moisture, it's just spread around a little bit and just cooled everything off. So it really won't be a problem. And then once you get inside, it might feel a bit, oh, not so pleasant. But once you're inside and you've had a hot drink, your body warmth will naturally just start the process of drying everything out again. But obviously if you are able to hang around and just let it just dry naturally for an hour or two, or half an hour, or just a short time before you start packing, maybe just undo the bivvy, just let some air get to it, assuming it's not raining, then that will be enough for it to dry out. I woke up and like I said, it's been dry. It actually dried while I was sleeping, so it was only that part first thing in the morning when it was dark with a lot of dew where it was damp. Clearly once you get some warmth on it, then it's going to dry out very, very quickly. Okay, but it really was incredibly comfortable. Obviously, thankfully it didn't rain. Part of me was hoping that it might have rained like during the night and I could just do it up just to feel what it would be like with rain. But thankfully it didn't do that, and I'm certainly glad we haven't got rain now, because I want to pack up slowly and and basically head back in the next few hours. So I'm pleased we're not getting any rain now. All right, well, that's about it on the bivvy video. So if you've enjoyed this bivvy video section, please like, subscribe, share, hit that notification button. Please try to watch the video in its entirety. That helps the channel a lot. So if you did get this far, then you have helped more than the average. Thank you.